Welcome back to Review Preview. I'm Rob McQuay sitting in for Steve Perutka, and we're talking about this amazing story in Angola having to do with a concert promoter from the United States, Pat Allocco, and the act that he had booked did not arrive for an event, for a concert, and he was and has been detained in Luanda, Angola, for over a month now. And we have Pat on the phone, and also friend and advisor Frank Barnes is also on the phone. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thank you.
And so, Pat, we're kind of in the middle of this story. You were surrounded by what we'll call security for the Angolan concert promoter Rakino, and then taken, I guess, at gunpoint to the local police station. Is that right?
That's correct.
And so,
that's correct.
Once you get there, what happens? Do they book you? I think you mentioned you hadn't been charged with anything. So what happens when you get to the police station?
Well, you get to a police station and no one speaks English, so it's really difficult to communicate.
Right.
They ask for things like passport identification, those things you can understand.
Right.
And they start taking biographical information about you, your parents, and it was a very difficult process.
Wow.
What I thought was interesting is they took our bags and they dumped them upside down on the floor, and they were physically looking for the money that we allegedly stole from the local promoter.
Oh, I see.
And that's where the investigation began.
Wow. So they still think, I mean, in their minds, you have the money, and you're not going to provide a concert. You're not going to provide the talent for the concert.
That's correct. And they thought we were fleeing for the embassy and for the United States.
Wow. All right. So they don't find money. You're not able to give them passports, right? Because they've been detained.
That's correct.
Is that right? So you can't give them any real paperwork. They can't find the money, and so what do they do then? Do they let you go?
No. It was a nearly 7-hour interrogation in two other locations. So we were taken to a secondary location where we just sat and we listened to Mr. Raquinho's story about what happened in Portuguese. And then we were taken to yet a third, which would be the equivalent of their FBI headquarters, where we were interrogated for another couple of hours.
Wow.
And that's where the story really changed at that point. They gave me my phone back. They had initially taken my phone during the abduction phase. When they gave me my phone back, I was able to text the embassy my location. And within 45 minutes, the security detail from the embassy and the vice consul showed up at the DNIC building, and they removed us back to the embassy.
Oh, okay. So you get back to the embassy. Now, what do they do? I mean, this is our U.S. embassy in Angola, right? So
that's correct.
Presumably, they are there to help U.S. citizens, right?
That's correct.
And how did they help?
Well, they reissued passports for us, and then this would be New Year's Eve now. They put us up in a safe house for the night and kept us overnight. And then the plan was to get us the next day. They issued us travel loans. They went out and they purchased tickets for us for 2 tickets on Emirates Air to Dubai, and they brought us to the airport to board the plane. And when we went to board the plane, our passports were confiscated. Yet our new passports were then confiscated again, and we were told that we're not permitted to travel.
So now that's the Angolan government now.
That's correct.
Right? Wow.
Yes.
And did they give you a reason?
They said that there was a business problem and that there's a criminal investigation. We were at that point, I think at that point the embassy then knew that this was a problem, and then they brought us to a hotel. They recommended, we actually went back to the embassy, then they said from this point you're going to have to go to a hotel and stay in a hotel.
Why is that? Did they have a reason for that?
Well, I think at that point they viewed it as a private matter, not a matter of state, and so that we were basically put to defend ourselves at that point.
Wow, that's amazing. I don't know if I can understand that. if another country's government is holding U.S. citizens, don't you think that's a U.S. government issue?
I have been saying that from day one, and I've been trying to make that case. And I think now, I hope now, I think yesterday the matter was brought up at the State Department briefing. I think now they're starting to take notice of the case and hopefully see that we're being detained against our will for no apparent reason.
Wow. And it's been, 35, 36 days? What has it been now?
34 days.
34.
Right? Yeah, 34 days today, yes.
34 days. All right. So, and my understanding is that Nas gave the money back. Is that right?
That's correct. He did return the money, and he returned it immediately to the local promoter. The opening act, this girl, Jemiah J., did not return the money, has not returned phone calls,
wow.
And that money is still out there. So, I mean, the prosecutor dealt with that in a way. He said, okay, we'll come up with a number that you two agree upon. And the other, Mr. Requino said $75,000, said agreed. So there's no dispute even of that. So
$75,000, what, to release you?
On top of the $300 that we returned from Nas, that's correct.
So basically, they're holding you for a ransom of $75,000.
I believe that's the case.
I mean, isn't that what it boils down to? Really?
I've said that a number of times. I think so.
Wow. All right, gentlemen, we've got about 4.5 minutes left. So, what's going on, Pat? And I don't know if there's any way that our listeners can help, or what can we do, if anything, to let us know what you need us to do.
Sure, and thank you for offering that. I appreciate it. In the beginning, we asked that people contact their senators and congressmen. We've had great support from our senator in New Jersey and from my local congressman, Congressman Frelinghuysen and Senator Menendez. What I would ask people to do now is to contact the White House. We know that it's at the highest levels of government right now. We know that the matter is being heard at the State Department, and we really need the executive branch to act and to say, get them out of Angola. We're in a desperate situation. We have spent $70,000 since we've been here, and we are running out of money. We're not going to have a place to live in 2 days. And right now we're informed today that it's questionable as to whether our legal representation is withdrawing from the case because of an entirely separate issue. So we're in a really bad predicament right now, and I would encourage everyone to call the White House and say, get the Alloccos out of Angola. If there's one thing people can do, I believe that's it.
All right, good. We'll ask our listeners to do that. And you mentioned the State Department. Now, if the State Department and the White House is all getting involved in this, why can't the U.S. Embassy step back in here? And you mentioned that you may not have a place to live in a couple of days. Why can't you get back to the embassy then? Are they still looking at this as private or what?
You think like I do. I thought everything you're saying has been in my heart since I've been here. I made an appeal to the government 2 days ago for refuge, and they denied us. I guess there are certain grounds for asylum that you really need to meet, and that financial distress, duress, and the conditions we've been under do not qualify. The fact that we were abducted at gunpoint, the fact that we've had events here that haven't been disclosed that are extortion in nature from local people, there's enough here to say, take us to the embassy and let us stay there.
Well, sure. Talk about criminal acts. I mean, just being held at gunpoint is, I believe, a crime.
You think so?
I mean, at least in this country it is.
It's sort of being Alice through the looking glass, or Alice in Wonderland.
Right.
It's the world turned upside down here.
Right. Well, unfortunately, and we talk about this all the time here, but our government has lost its way. It doesn't even know what it's supposed to do. I mean, the government's job is to protect our God-given rights, and you're certainly been violated. You mentioned the State Department, and I'm aware of a press conference or something with an AP reporter, Matt Lee, and the State Department, who is its spokeswoman, Victoria Newland. And boy, I'm reading the transcript of that, and I can mention to the listeners that it's I think it's a YouTube. I think it's actually posted on your site on Facebook, where he asks questions, and they really don't seem to be able to do much, or say much, I should say. This was how long ago was this interview? Do you know?
It was yesterday morning. It was 10 o'clock. Yesterday's briefing at 10 o'clock in the morning, which is why I encourage. If the State Department can't act, the President can direct the State Department to act.
Sure.
And it's really at that point where he needs to step in and say, get them. No differently than he got the hostages out of Somalia, then he's treating the Egyptian situation right now with the hostages. They needs to get directly involved and say, get them out of there.
All right, Pat. We've run out of time. Thank you for bringing this story to us, and we encourage our listeners to contact the White House. And as Pat said, get the Alloccos out of Angola. We will pray for you and your son, and God willing, our government will do something that they should do instead of all the things they shouldn't do.
Okay. Thank you so much for having us on. I appreciate it.
All right, Pat, and maybe when this is all said and done, we'll have you back on, and you can, bring us up to date with what happened. Frank,
I would love to.
Frank, thanks for being here. You didn't say much, but thanks for being here and bringing Pat onto the show. Oh,
okay.
We must have lost.
Frank may be gone.
Frank may be gone. All right, and folks, that'll do it for this segment. Stick around. We'll be talking about tomorrow's Super Bowl after these messages.